Hello, and welcome back to Beyond the Accent. I'm Carrie, your host, and today's episode is going to be a little different and also incredibly practical. We are talking about conversations. No surprises here. But before you zone out thinking, okay, I know how to talk to people with this again. Well, what is it you're going to tell us? Stick with me, all right? Because this is one of those episodes that has the power to change how you show up in conversations and do so for good, probably. So whether you're negotiating a raise, giving feedback to a team member at work, having a heart-to-heart with your partner, these are all very different situations, aren't they? Whether, you're just trying to get through a group chat with clarity, these 7 strategies will make you a better communicator. So they come from a brilliant chapter in a communication book that I recently read by Ellen Baker. And as I was going through it, I was thinking to myself, this needs to be an episode. And so here we are. Let us get into it. Number 1, clarify. Clarify your objective. Think of every conversation as a journey. You and the other person are getting into a car, a metaphorical car. Now imagine the driver says, let us just drive around and see where we end up, Sounds fun, maybe for 5 minutes, but then it sort of gets confusing. Where are we going? What are we doing? Do we even agree on the destination here? And this is what happens when we enter conversations without the clarity, right? A good conversation has some kind of headline to itself, something like, I wanted to run something by you. Do you have a moment? Or let's take 10 minutes to brainstorm ideas for the team event. Or I've been thinking about the last meeting and I'd love to clear something up. So when you do this, you help the other person orient themselves. You help yourself orient yourself. You make everyone feel safe because you're not ambushing anybody. And here's the nuance. Not every conversation is about solving something we tend to forget. Some are just for exploring. Some are for understanding. Some are just to name a thing out loud. But if you're not sure whether you're exploring or fixing, you might try to solve something that isn't fully understood yet. And that is how we end up feeling unheard or misaligned. So before you speak, always ask yourself, okay, is it about exploring or finding a solution? The most generous thing that you can do is say, I don't have an answer. I'm just trying to think this through with you. It's more honest. It's very much fair to yourself and the listener and the other speaker. That sets the tone, and tone is everything when it comes to effective conversing. Number 2, structure your thinking. Okay, this is where it gets juicy. Great communicators don't just know what they think, they know how they think, and they bring others into that process. So we can think of this in 2 stages. One is perception, the other is judgment. Perception is around what's happening here. What are we noticing? How does it feel, right? So the exploration of it all. And then stage 2 is more about judgment. What should we do about it? What's your take on it? And a lot of us skip stage 1. We rush to fix. We jump in with, here's what we need to do, before we've even agreed on what's wrong, on what needs fixing, and whether it needs fixing in the first place. Let me give you an example, right? Let's say a team member shows up late 3 days in a row. You might immediately think, okay, they're disorganized, and you plan to call them out. Okay, clear as day. But you've already leaped to stage 2, right? Stage 1 is about asking the right questions. What's going on here? Is there something happening in their world that I do not see? Have they been late before, or is this new? Did something change in our workflow, right? And there's a model that I love from the book. It introduces 4 types of conversation. The first 2 types are more about stage 1, and the second 2 types are more about the second stage of things. So it all starts with 1, conversation for relationship. This one sets the tone, okay? It's not always comfortable. It's where do we stand and how do we see this? For instance, you're collaborating with someone new. And before you jump into tasks, you might ask, how do you usually like to work? What kind of communication keeps you in flow? Then there's the conversation for possibility. We're still in stage 1. We're brainstorming. This is not the time to shoot ideas down. We think, okay, what could we do? What haven't we considered yet? What would be wild but fun? Right? There's a lot of questions to possibly ask there. Possibility conversations are where creativity lives. And then we move on towards stage 2, the judging of it all and deciding on how to act. We've got conversation for opportunity. This is where you narrow things down. Okay, what's realistic? What's our actual capacity? For instance, you've brainstormed a dozen social media ideas and now you choose 2 to test. 2 you're going to go with for whatever reason. And then lastly, we got conversation for action. Let's do the thing, right? What will we do and when? What does success look like? What's doing what? Who's doing what? How is this going to work? And when you try to have these 4 conversations all at once, it's a bit chaotic, right? And when you go in order, the clarity is chef's kiss. Number 3. Manage your time. Let's get real. Most conversations aren't long. You're working with 5, 15, maybe 30 minutes, right? So be realistic about time and don't assume you have more than you do, right? I'm saying that to myself for the most part. Start with, is this a good time, right? I need 5 minutes. Can we talk? And then pay attention to the speed of the conversation, the tempo of it all. If things are moving too quickly, you might be in a rush to agree or to escape discomfort, and that's no good, right? If things are dragging, people might be stuck in the past or circling the same point, not quite being present, and you can speed things up a little bit with something like, okay, let's summarize where we are. Okay, can we move this to action? Where are we going to take this? What's the next stage for us? Or we could slow it down with, okay, let me repeat that to make sure I understand. Let me check in with you. Can I ask a why question here, right? Time feels different when you're emotionally activated. And when you're stressed, a 10-minute chat can feel like a marathon. When you're lit up, an hour can feel like 5 minutes. So monitor your internal tempo, not just the clock. Number 4, find common ground. You ever start a conversation feeling like you and the other person are on opposite sides of a battlefield? Here's the trick. You're not. The goal is to move together, not to win. Sometimes this starts with asking permission, you know? Can I share a different perspective? Or would it be okay if I push on this a bit? And it also means being open to hearing, of course, right? Well, I'd rather not go there. You know, silence, body language, deflection. There's a lot of ways to communicate. You'd rather not go there right now for whatever reason. Pay attention to those cues, right? Folded arms, sudden vagueness, the body saying not safe, right? It's all information for you. But when someone leans in, makes eye contact, mirrors your tone, you've got green lights, right? You're moving together. And once you find a shared yes, even if it's small, you build from there. So we both agree the team's feeling stretched. Let's start with that, right? That's a good example of finding the right place and yourself in the right place in the conversation, and you're not alone in that place. Number 5, move beyond argument. Most of us were trained to debate, not to explore. Well, this is true of the American culture anyways. To win, not to understand. But argument shuts down new thinking, right? It raises the emotional temperature, and when someone feels attacked, they stop listening. They get into their heads, bad things happen. So here's a better model. The ladder of inference, everybody. Imagine a ladder and it's got 6 rungs, okay? Number 1, you observe something. Number 2, you select specific data to focus on. Number 3, you interpret that data. Number 4, you form assumptions. Number 5, you build beliefs. Last but not least, you act. Here's an example, okay? Observation. Your friend doesn't reply to your message, okay? Selected data. She always replies quickly, right? Interpretation. She's ignoring me. What the heck? Assumption. Maybe she's upset with me. What is it that I did? Belief. She doesn't value this friendship. What the hell? An action. You pull away. So you just went from one unread message to a whole narrative, and that's a fast climb, right? Climbing down sounds like, I notice you haven't replied yet. Everything okay? I might be jumping to conclusions, but I wondered if I said something off. This kind of transparency, it invites others to meet you there on the ladder so that you climb it together, and you do so without anyone rushing someplace and maybe falling off. And you can use this in any conversation, right? What made you think that? Like walk me through this. What's the story underneath that reaction? Is there a belief we're both operating from here? I mean, tone-wise, you gotta adjust, right? Sometimes you sound more formal, sometimes less so. But, don't be afraid to check in with the other person. And it just slows things down in the best way possible, right? You're not just falling off of that ladder. You guys are traveling and you're moving together if things are being checked on. Number 6, summarize often. When a conversation drifts into the fog and no one knows what's been said? That's where summarizing saves the day. And I don't mean robotic recaps, right? I mean real-time rephrasing, something that's alive, it's moving. So what I'm hearing is you're frustrated, but it's more about the lack of clarity than the task itself, right? It sounds like we agree on the goal, but we have different ideas on how to get there. This is what it looks like. Am I getting it right? This is a gift. You're showing the other person that you listened, that you're tracking, and that you care enough to make sure you're aligned. Pro tip, summarize mid-conversation and then again at the end with action steps. So I'll draft the proposal by Friday, you'll review by Monday, and we'll regroup Tuesday. Clarity, efficiency, no ghost tasks or vague promises. This is really refreshing. Number 7, use visuals. This one might sound simple, but boy, it's powerful. And I want you to listen here because sometimes you won't have the actual visuals at hand, right? So what does it mean exactly? Of course, you can use a whiteboard, sticky notes, drawings, but you can also use metaphors to make abstract ideas visible. And humans are visual thinkers. All of us are visual thinkers to an extent, a great extent right there. Even a scribble on the back of a napkin can shift the entire conversation. If you're not using visuals, use visual language, right? Metaphors. This process feels like running on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not getting anywhere. Or it's like we're trying to drive 2 cars in opposite directions with the same steering wheel. What's going on? Or, okay, right now the mood in the team feels a little foggy. There's low visibility. And this is, oh my God, what it does to people's brains and imaginations and the quality of conversation. I can't say this enough. Get to it. Metaphorize. When people see what you mean, they connect faster. They remember more and they engage deeper. So let your words paint pictures, okay? Couple final thoughts here. We covered a lot, 7 strategies, tons of examples, one big invitation. Choose one, just one. And this week, maybe you'll clarify your objective every time you talk, in your head or out loud. Depends on the context, doesn't it? Or maybe you'll play with the ladder of inference when things get tense and you don't fall off of it, but you travel step by step, upwards and downwards. Or maybe you'll start sketching your ideas on sticky notes during Zoom calls. Get physical in the best sense ever. Get visual for sure. Whatever it is, use it, try it, notice how people respond, collect some data, because here's the truth. Great conversations don't happen by accident. They happen by design. They kind of do. And design doesn't mean rigid or robotic. No, it means intentional. You're there, you're present, there's intent. So which one are you going to try this week? Let me know. Seriously, email me, DM me, comment on this episode. I'd love to hear what resonates. Thank you so much for listening. You're doing amazing. Do be sure of it. I'll see you next Sunday. And don't forget, on April 6th, I'm going live with my new workshop on rhythm and intonation in your everyday speaking practice. So do be sure to check out the deets here in the description, in the emails that I send out, whatever it is, wherever it is that you follow me, I'll be sure to provide more info for you. I'd love for you to come on and work on your intonational patterns and feel the freedom. So talk soon. This was Carrie. Have a wonderful rest of the week. See you next Sunday.